Right. This is
Good
a screen
evening
capture
and welcome to the
of the this Falcon Heavy thing, and I'm not going to go too much into this. People have done some very good analysis of the hoax, this hooey that they're presenting to the population on space travel, all the kind of stuff that's going on around this Elon Musk fellow. I'm just going to run this a little bit here to see this person that anyone with a sense of don't even need to have much insight, but to be able to read a person, body language, character, nature, the presentation itself, how it's all done as a very matter of fact. Even stupid people can launch rockets into space. I'm telling you, they found this guy in a two-lane bowling alley setting up pins, and they've made him into the next boy wonder on Earth with his fantasies, creating fantasies in our mind about space and all the things that have been going on since the moon, the moon landings, all the anomalies associated with the moon landings. They have been a lot of great people have done critical analysis of how this is impossible the way we're being told, and this is a continuation of this. And I think I'll just capture this for just briefly. I'll capture this. Just have a look, and I'll pause and go and pause and go a little bit.
post-launch news conference for the SpaceX Falcon Heavy test flight. I'm John Taylor, Director of Communications for SpaceX. Joining us.
Look at this posture. It's kind of like a bit of a Mussolini thing. He feels really good about himself, but he's the CEO and main designer for these rockets. He has no engineering degrees or anything of value. He's running several companies. An individual like this, it. You know what it takes for me to run my own business, a small business, what the amount of effort and work it takes to run it well. This guy apparently does 4 or 5 major billion-dollar concerns and is running it just like this. Listen to this guy.
Provide a status on the mission. Elon
Oops.
Musk, SpaceX CEO and lead designer.
CEO and lead designer, just as I said.
Hi, everyone. I'm really excited about today. Incredibly proud of the SpaceX team. They've done an incredible job of creating really the most advanced rocket in the world and biggest rocket in the world.
Oh, the most advanced and biggest rocket in the world. You see when I say they found him in a bowling alley? He talks, he's dysfunctional. He appears and talks dysfunctional. People, how can anyone take someone like this seriously? And the story, which will lead me into the context I always like to create about stuff I come across. And everyone that is still so convinced about the real world is what it appears to be because people in white coats have told us what it is. Just listen to this person and the whole thing begins to unravel. If you're still reasonable, everyone that still has attached themselves to the traditional, to the consensual notion of not just reality in terms of physical reality, but even history, what is told, you have to honestly become aware of that. This is so extraordinary that what the suspension of disbelief we're being asked to use when we listen to people like this. Listen to this guy.
I'm still trying to absorb everything that happened because it seems surreal to me.
It seems surreal to him. He's trying to absorb everything that happened. I mean, these are people that are supposedly on the highest level of technology. Why would it be surreal? We do this because we know what we're doing. It's like you accomplish a task because you're good at what you're doing, so it's surreal. Why is it surreal?
Um, I had this image of just a giant explosion on the pad with, a wheel bouncing down the road.
Oh, that is so funny. He's reducing everything. This is like Armstrong, Aldrin, Collins sitting in the news conference, pretending that it's just so banal and stupid everything. Did you see any stars when you were looking the moon into the sky, into the expanse of space? Did you see any stars? And they looked at each other dumbfounded, like, Collins, you want to take this? Buzz, no. Neil, you take this? I don't want to take this. I don't know if I saw stars. It's kind of like a wheel bouncing down, this continuous pretense that this is the banality of this extraordinary, supposedly extraordinary event turns into some kind of a banality. It brings, listen, this brings into question everything that we understand about technology. What we are using as high advanced technology is in fact a grunt level of our existence. We're grunting along like this guy is grunting along. Listen a little bit more.
And like the Tesla logo landing somewhere with a thud.
It's all funny. It's a big joke. It's a big joke.
Fortunately, that's not what happened.
So it's a big hit and miss thing, but everything seems to work all the time. It's a hit and miss thing, and launching his stupid car into space, we're supposed to believe that as well. And again, I refer to Quantum of Conscience. He's done some great analysis of how ridiculous this whole thing of launching this car and coming out of the spaceport, this hangar, and we at one moment we see it inside, the next split second we see it outside. All these things are beautifully gone through. He goes through this. Like, I like this guy. I like this channel, Quantum of Conscience. He dissects this guy and what he's talking about beautifully.
Mission seems to have gone really as well as one could have hoped, with the exception of Centaur. Those the two side boosters. If you guys are here, you saw them land.
He's slurring his words all the way through. I don't know whether the Centaur or something hasn't worked. So there's got to be something that didn't work, because otherwise it wouldn't feel real, I suppose. Anyway, I'm going to leave this here. I'll leave his face on. I'm going to leave this here because I had a conversation with a friend. And whatever you think of this individual, he is not what he appears to be. Like, what I am now convinced, we are not experiencing. The reality that we're experiencing is definitely not what it appears to be, or at least from the point of view is what we have been taught, what we've been told. All the things that are supposed to be what they are not. They're not, in fact, they're probably the opposite of what it is. So if it's a ball, it's probably flat. I don't know if it's flat or whatever shape we might be living on, what dimensions we're living in, but this is not a true story. This is his story. Again, like I say, we're always in the headlights of their story. And what I'd like to just comment on, the context that I'd like to create. I had a conversation with a friend, and I said, look, if it's, this person is not too interested in what the nature of our reality is. He just kind of exists and goes on every day. It's like an amoeba grabbing their morsel of food and then ejecting it out the back end. And everything is kind of like that idea of what I said in my last video, the idea of the bag of blood that is just kind of plopped here in this reality, whatever that might be. So what I said, look, you may perceive this as not being worthwhile our interest, whether or not this is true, what the nature of our reality truly is. And I'm not definitively saying it's one thing or another. It's just the story we're being told is so clearly not what they're saying. It's impossible for them to do what they say they're doing with the video footage and the documentation that they give us. It makes no sense. You can research this. I don't have to dissect this. Somebody else will do this. But here's my comment on this, what I think is so important and crucial here. And that is, once we become, once we give credibility to ourselves from the point of view that we have a certain critical, no matter how intelligent or smart or knowledge or wisdom we have, there is a critical aspect to us that can still say, this doesn't make sense. And it's what is in literature or in I suppose an analytic way, it's thought of as the a posteriori. That is, using experience and observation to build at least a solid foundation for us to exist, to build ourselves on something that feels meaningful to us, not like a suspension of belief to say, someone has told me this to be true, which is the a priori. I am coming from a position that says, I'd like to be able to weigh what it is that I experience against my own experience, understanding, rationale, all the abilities we have as human beings for that to be engaged in order to come to a conclusion that will allow me to step into whatever it is that I'm growing into. We are all growing. Like from the time we are an idea, a love idea between our parents, and then we enter the dimension of reality through this mystery, this fertilization of something coming together into a new entity, whatever that mystery is about. And science has not been able to even produce a single dust particle, never mind creating. They're just manipulating and mucking about with stuff that already exists. So they're not telling us something that is so extraordinary. What they're doing is they're manipulating everything around. Anyway, the point was to my friend that yes, all right, you don't care. You exist, you have your existence, you're a good person, your life. And I said, all right, your argument is that you can't do anything about it anyway. And if they're telling us lies, let's let them dance on their pin of lies, and I don't really care. And here's where I come in and I say, look, this is part of my understanding of how we as people, even people of conscience, people that care, have a proclivity and an ability to set aside future generations. So if on our watch this is happening, and this is like nasty, this is like happening from the point of view that these are lies that are being perpetrated. They're not just against us, but against future generations. That it's our responsibility to the children, the vulnerable, who get inducted into these lies if we don't make a stand. So for yourself, it's fine. You go ahead and live your life like an amoeba grabbing their next morsel in a reality you have no idea other than what it is that it pleasures you or satisfies you. But there is this whole other side to our existence, which is the people that come after you and me, called children and their children. And the idea that we love our children is really connected to this, that we have an obligation to sort this out, not to let this be perpetrated by the guy you're looking at here, this little Mussolini that came out of a 2-lane bowling alley. This is where they found him, and they promote, they propagate this through these dupes, and they give them everything they want, the billions, whatever. These are postured and groomed people that have taken over the narrative and continue to be in our headlights, and we have no chance to exist in any meaningful way in this whatever this dimension might be, unless we stand up to these lies, not just for you and me, but for the people that come after us. This is so important, people. Anyway.